Good afternoon, I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. More than 10 rank-and-file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force are in isolation after testing positive for COVID-19. Among that number is Chairman of the Police Federation, Sergeant Patrero.
My self-quarantine is one such step. Out of an abundance of caution, I have been tested and I'm awaiting my results as the leaders of the force who interact heavily with our membership. I think that it is prudent that we make those decisions quickly so that our interactions is not the cause for positive cases.
Another 70 members are in isolation, in self-quarantine rather, awaiting test results.
Once members come in contact with a positive case or exhibit signs and symptoms of COVID-19, that they be removed from duty and placed into quarantine. That protocol has hold, and a number of our members island-wide have been quarantined.
Meanwhile, members of the hierarchy of the JCF, including the 4 deputy commissioners, are also in self-isolation, or should I say self-quarantine, following the police commissioner's positive result. Staff members of the police commissioner's office are also in quarantine. New COVID-19 restrictions have been announced for a number of Kingston and St. Andrew communities, which are now considered hot spots for the virus. At a press briefing last night, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the police will be helping to ensure persons obey the health protocols. More in this report.
In the last few days, several communities in Kingston and St. Andrew have recorded a spike in the number of positive cases for COVID-19. It's why Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced a stay indoor order for those communities.
We intend to increase significantly the level of enforcement and prosecution, particularly for persons who have been allowed to enter the island and who are not maintaining the quarantine. If you take the infection prevention and control measures seriously, you will reduce significantly the possibility, the probability of being infected.
The order will take effect on Thursday. Mr. Holness explained that the move is to prevent unnecessary movements outside the household. There are more than 29,000 persons currently under home quarantine. And Mr. Holness said it is impossible for law enforcers to monitor each of them 24/7. But in light of recent events where images of persons flouting the health protocol were circulating, Mr. Holness has ordered the police to do house visits to ensure that home quarantine is being upheld. Under the Disaster Risk Management Act, persons caught in breach of the protocols can be charged.
We have now said to the Commissioner of Police that all the stations around Jamaica should now make it a point of duty to visit the homes of persons under quarantine to ensure that they are there, and if they are not there, then they would be up for prosecution.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Entertainment activities are to be suspended for the next 2 weeks as the government takes steps to contain the spread of the novel coronavirus. Prime Minister Andrew Holness said he understands that the entertainment sector has taken a hit, but with the recent spike linked to entertainment events, the government had no choice.
So we took the decision that permits that are already issued, those permits would be cancelled and refunded for the next 2 weeks. And I asked the entertainment industry, people who are involved, who have been hard hit, to please understand that this is something that the government has to do. And it is not that we are doing it in a callous way without understanding their side of it. But there is a national side to this thing now, which we have to be firm in protecting the lives and safety of the Jamaican public.
He said weddings and funerals can continue. While weddings will be limited to 50 participants, funerals have been banned, with only burials being allowed with no more than 15 persons at the graveside. And the Prime Minister has admitted that nomination day activities may have contributed to the spike in COVID-19 cases. Mr. Holness reiterated that campaign activities will be suspended to prevent additional mass gatherings.
We have to acknowledge that the activities of nomination day, in particular, could see in the coming days, within one incubation cycle, an impact on the numbers. And therefore, I have decided not to do any more campaigning, which would see any crowds gathering. We did some drive-thrus, and we were hoping that
the General Secretaries of the PNP and JLP have agreed to curtail campaign activities.
The necessary administrative work to carry through an election that will continue. We will amend the protocols that we established regarding house-to-house and door-to-door campaigning, that the 5 persons who were permitted on the house-to-house walks, they will now not enter anyone's home. They will stand at the gate and deliver their voters' guides or their paraphernalia. And they will all, of course, have to follow the infection prevention and control measures, the mask wearing, the hand sanitizing, etc.
The Manchester Health Department is raising concerns about individuals who continue to breach quarantine and other COVID-19 related protocols. Medical Officer of Health Dr. Nadine Williams issued a warning to passengers who are not wearing masks in public transportation. Shamela Pullen reports.
So far, more than 40 persons have been diagnosed with COVID-19 in Manchester. But Medical Officer of Health for the parish, Dr. Nadine Williams, says the figure could be much higher as they are not able to test everyone. Dr. Williams says a big part of the challenge is persons coming from overseas and showing up in the parish without completing their quarantine period,
whereby they are not reporting to the health department. Our role is to make contact with them as well, but at any given time we have over 1,000 persons who might be in quarantine in the parish at any time, and it is very difficult for us to monitor all of them. There are times when the information that we receive on these persons might be incomplete. The telephone number is inaccurate. There is no telephone number, no specific address for them, or the next of kin information that we receive is not correct as well. Persons also give information at the airport of a next of kin that when we call those persons, they have no idea who we're talking about.
And to make matters worse, Dr. Williams says some of these persons are attending funerals and other events in the parish. Not only is this a breach of the guidelines, but it also puts everyone at risk for contracting the virus.
I have seen and I've gotten reports of funerals where there are more than 100, close to 200 persons, even during this time of COVID. And I am imploring persons, please do not enter in such a large gathering. And if you are there, you see that the crowd is getting too large, you have shown your face, just leave.
Dr. Williams is also appealing to persons who take public transportation.
Please ensure that you're wearing your mask at all times, because you do not know who's sitting beside you, and you're not able to maintain physical distancing at taxi because you're crammed up. So just please make sure you wear your mask. Make sure that ask the driver to ensure that he's wearing his mask as well to reduce your risk.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have many more stories when we return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. The Jamaica Labour Party says if it's given a new mandate after the September 3 general election, significant investments will be made in the health sector. Chief among those investments, infrastructure developments. According to its manifesto released this morning, the JLP is planning to spend millions of dollars to upgrade major hospitals. Some 110 health centers will be retrofitted with information communication technology systems. Meanwhile, the JLP is promising to provide some $500 million in grants to micro, small and medium-sized enterprises through the Social Development Commission. The tourism sector will receive some $1.2 billion through the Exim Bank. The JLP also promised to create a $20 billion public-private COVID-19 recovery equity fund to provide loans to businesses which were severely impacted by the pandemic. There's a call for public health workers to be given COVID-19 emergency kits. Associate Professor of Occupational Health and Safety at the University of Technology, Dr. Alveston Bailey, says the kits would lessen the risk of exposure.
There are two levels of kits that should be given. Level 1 would be an impervious or water-resistant face mask. They should be given a gown along with a goggle. If they are exposed to higher levels of risk, they should be given an N95 mask, a goggle, face shield, an impervious gown, and gloves. I have been advised by the Minister of Health that there's no shortage of PPE in this country. Therefore, the PPEs must be unwrapped and taken out to the workplace and given to the workers immediately so that they can protect themselves.
And the Social Development Commission SDC has closed several offices, including its head office, after some members of staff came in contact with an individual who tested positive for COVID-19. The SDC's corporate office, Kingston and St. Andrew, as well as Portmore and St. Thomas Parish offices, will be closed today and tomorrow to facilitate deep cleaning and sanitization. The individual who tested positive is not a member of staff. Affected staff members in quarantine will be tested. Some players in the tourism industry are speaking out this afternoon over the continued restrictions imposed on them. Ravi Daswani, who operates the Royal Shop in Rose Hall, St. James, says the industry cannot continue to absorb the losses.
Life has to go on, economies have to move, and people have to eat. So you know what? This virus is something that may not ever go away. It's a chance that we take.
He was speaking at a meeting of stakeholders about the performance of the Resilience Corridor. The corridor has been established as a safe space for tourists to operate while they visit.
You can see that the Resilient Corridor is actually taking care of themselves quite well. I don't believe we have much cases in this area. And I think the protocols that TPDCO has set forward with the Ministry of Tourism has actually guided us in the right way. So the fact that we're all COVID approved, I think we should give it a chance and open up the corridor.
What we have seen is along the Resilience Corridor, we have not seen any cases linked no known cases linked, known transmission linked to our staff. So we feel safe. We feel that we have implemented the required measures, and it's constant reinforcing. We have the Resilience Corridor committee meets, and we look at all whatever areas that we see any shortcomings, and we tend to address them. There's this see something, say something, do something, where we want everybody within the Resilience Corridor to be each other's keeper and ensure that the Resilience Corridor stays as sterile as possible.
Authorities in Clarendon say they have expanded the pool of shelters available to them for this hurricane season. This has been done in the event of a hurricane. Mayor of Maypen, Winston Mirage, explained that the changes will ensure physical distancing guidelines can be followed.
We have been preparing at the municipal corporation level. We have our disaster coordinator who has been going around and having training sessions for the shelter managers. We have been identifying and remarking all the shelters, and so we also have to be operating now under the necessary COVID-19 protocols. So we recognize that if and when we should have a disaster such as a hurricane, we would need more than one buildings as shelters. So we are in touch with the churches. We're in touch with all the community groups so we can have more volunteers as well to assist us in managing the shelters. So we'll be looking at the isolation area. We've been marking the social distancing areas and so on and so forth.
The mayor was speaking at the tour of a community center in Portland Cottage, which will be used as a shelter. In the meantime, one resident of Portland Cottage, one of the most flood-prone areas in southern Clarendon, says she is still not prepared for this hurricane season.
Going time we hear so hurricane near if come around up and down. Right now, I don't have no plans or I just live right now. I don't know what to do for plan feet. If hurricane for liquid, we can't stop that. So me just live right now.
Residents of several East rural St. Andrew communities were left marooned on Monday following flood rains that lashed the island. Residents told our news center that landslides impacted 4 different areas of the main road that links Mahogany Vale, Penland Castle and Hagley's Gap. That resulted in scores of residents being inconvenienced. Many who were trying to go to work in Kingston had to return home.
We trapped in. We have like 3-4 major landslides, and a lot of people want to go to work, and we are very, very, very distressed right now because we cannot move, none at all. We were stuck, and we need some urgent help right now. So we're asking the authority to really look into this.
And in sports, the Jamaica Tallawahs will look to kickstart their 2020 Caribbean Premier League campaign when they face Guyana Amazon Warriors this afternoon at the Queen's Park Oval in their return match. The match bowls off at 4:30 p.m. Jamaica time. The Tallawahs, who won their opening match against the St. Lucia Zouks, have since lost their next 2 matches, including to the Amazon Warriors in their last match. The Amazon Warriors have won 12 and lost 7 of their meetings against the Jamaican franchise. The Tallawahs only won 2 of their 10 fixtures last season and finished at the foot of the table. And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.